Welcome to Vision Pros, the show all about spatial computing, Vision OS, and getting work done on the Apple Vision Pro. I'm Tim Chen, host of the show. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Vision Pros. Joining us today on the podcast is Tim Summers and Henrik from Reflekt Music, and they also work with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, which is the app name to download if you want to follow along today and check out what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Tim and Henrik have developed this really cool point cloud player music playback kind of system and app where you are able to experience live performances by walking around in your own room and getting up close and put your head in the cello and kind of hear the music as it changes around you, getting up and close and personal with the musicians. And they've done this thing which is really unique because most immersive performances are just pure video where if you move more than 3 feet away from you, Apple yells at you. But the way they've devised this lets you actually move around the space and experience music in a really unique and cool way. So we're going to dive into their application and kind of the technology behind it all. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as we dive into Reflekt Music and what they've done for the Vision Pro, and it's also on the Quest 3 as well. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so over at visionpros.fm/Patreon. And by subscribing to either the Patreon or in Apple Podcasts, you can get episodes early of both this podcast and my other podcast, iPad Pros. My great thanks to everyone that supports the show. Another awesome way to support this podcast is simply by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. Every review goes a long way in helping others discover the show. With that, here's my discussion with Tim and Henrik. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast. We're joined by both Tim Summers and Henrik from, what's the actual company? Is it Reflekt Music? I know the app has a different name.
Yes, that is our company. That's what we're building on now. You have a different company name actually in the Mahler Chamber Orchestra app because that was originally a collaboration between Henrik's old company, Schallgeber, which is still, it was old and now it's still old, and then the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, which is an orchestra based here in Berlin, kind of a pan-European, very, very good orchestra that will put together this project. So that's why you have that name. But in the future, we're building out toward things that are on a Reflekt Music platform.
Okay. And so, but currently, if you're following along, you can download the Mahler Chamber Orchestra app, and that's kind of where you can kind of see what we're talking about. In that app is expanding with more performances in the future, but you're talking about a platform separate from that, or
It'll be a platform based on what we have there. I think the working on the Vision Pro has allowed us to think about what these kinds of experiences mean as downloadable objects, and so that's what we're building toward here. We've actually been building these for Quest 3 or for Quest 2, no Quest 3, and we have exhibitions that have been going on those, but we want, well, these experiences are multi-platform, and we want some sort of a format, which is just how we can present really, really rich audio and video performance information on any spatial medium. And each of these is showing its strengths and weaknesses, and they're going together toward what will be. Yeah.
The most important thing for us was on how people experience these experiences and that we have a quality assurance on when they watch it at home. And with the other devices, we always had the feeling that if they're just not using headphones, that things start to clip easily, and it's just not what we are wanting to have. And specifically, if you are representing an orchestra with very, very high level of performance, you want to have that delivered also as good as possible. So with the Vision Pro, it was the first time for us that we actually felt as a package, the quality is just high enough to be able to release an app and that people can download it at home and experience it at home.
And what's your background, Henrik, in all this?
My background is since 10 years, I'm working with immersive audio and VR. Worked with the first development kit of the Oculus, And this is how it started. And then I ended up developing a lot of software and hardware also with hardware manufacturers. I had to go through a lot in order to establish this kind of audio system so we can do what we can do. So it's been a really long development, and it's something very special that we built.
And do you have a background in music as well, or are you just more kind of the audio kind of?
I have a master's of music, but I'm not able to read sheet music. But I studied in London at Goldsmiths College, and they're really, really great in terms of audio innovation and these sorts of things. And it was basically a master's course on applying technology to music creatively, and I think that kind of worked out.
Yeah,
for me.
That's kind of perfect. And Tim, what is your background in all this?
My background is that I'm a musician. I play the violin and a number of other instruments. I'm actually at the University of the Arts, which you might be hearing a little bit in the background, where I teach. I also have a background in software from having taught it at the University of Virginia, making mathematics visualization software for education, and learned a lot of stuff there and held on to it. And I had also studied electronic music on a Fulbright in Denmark, and have been working to bind these things together for many years.
Nice. And what do you teach specifically?
I actually teach violin.
Okay,
just
excellent.
playing the violin. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
But I'm really my principal job is really with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, being on tour for a good half of the year. We're going to South America soon. We tour the U.S. very often. We'll be in Carnegie again. We've been in the past 5-6 years, and we do a lot of things. Yeah. So that's what we're bringing then to put into Vision Pro. We have a lot of very skilled friends working with us.
Yes. So if you're watching the app, there's just one. There's two violinists. I'm trying to remember what I watched last night.
Yeah, this is two violinists, two violists, and a cello. It's a very um, very, how would you say, very deep piece from Mozart. Is a kind of a late piece, and it's a heavy piece, but very. It was nice to start with this because the piece is not. It's not a toy. It kind of let me know that the whole medium could show you things about music which you couldn't actually get other places, and to take a piece that with that much thought in it and to be able to communicate it was really important for us in realizing that there was something really worth pursuing.
And then right now there's the single performance, but you've previewed there will be 4 more or 3 more coming. Do you know the timetable for kind of when you guys are expecting?
So we're having quite a few projects realized already, and they're all running on different platforms. And because we are working with point clouds to represent the musicians volumetrically, we built our own point cloud player for the Vision Pro, and also tweaked the audio system to do what we needed to do. And so this point cloud player is now very efficient and reliably running, and now we need to transform all the point clouds to make that work. So the quintet is the first one that we will release, and then we're having also Charles Ives' The Unanswered Question, a few more duets and solo pieces, also the Bartok that you mentioned earlier. And our biggest project is from Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream with the Mahler Chamber Orchestra with 52 musicians in total. And this is where we are still debating, because also this is for us like a digital installation, and we want to see some like next generation headset, which is very audience friendly, where you can be in a museum space, for instance, because this is supposed to be a social activity, and you're together in a space, you're seeing and hearing the same thing. And if you're having 52 musicians working around you, you have a lot to do, and you can really go through it a lot of times. And just standing at the trumpets at the Mendelssohn, it's very, very interesting to hear all the detail and how differently they play, and standing in between them. and get to know all these details which are lost in the bigger scheme, which still play a role, but you can't be just listening into it like pinpoint accurate as we can recreate it. So the timeline is not 100% clear. It's just a lot of work and data mangling and yeah, and also doing new recordings.
Yeah, and this point cloud player, what's the So you're not looking at a pure video. It's kind of reminiscent of. I definitely have seen this kind of look in movies before, where you're like looking through memories in some way. And is there a certain visual style that this is trying to mimic that I'm not quite getting?
It's very funny because I watched the Blade Runner, the new one recently, and
Mm-hmm.
they have this scene where they have the musicians on stage, and it's like, wow, this is kind of
Yeah,
like
that might
what
be
we
it.
do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the player is there, and I really love the aesthetics. It's I think you have two different groups of people. One say like, is it normal that they are so pixelated? And then the other ones are like, wow, I love the look of these point clouds, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's for us now tweaking the visual look and developing it further because with volumetric capture, specifically if you're trying to show a lot of people, photorealism is not possible yet. I think from the scanning technology, like even if you're having quite complex volumetric capture studios, it's still all a bit in the uncanny valley. And if you're playing these things back, you need a lot of GPUs and it's massive amounts of data. And what we have as a goal is to run on mobile chips and also have data that we can transport to the users. So with these point clouds, we're quite in the current sweet spot. What you still get, I mean, you get really excellent audio and the representation of the acoustic space around you, and you can you still witness the physicality of the playing of the musicians. So it's a really strong reference, and the audio really brings it to life.
I would think there's something I can add to that, like from the opposite, from the aesthetic point of view, which is it's really nice that you realize how much material there is in the music itself. Like you have these point clouds as a reference for how the sound is being produced, but the real activity and the real thought is in the sound. And I think this is actually it's related to why recordings are good, but it amplifies what's good about recording. And there's a way in which, like, our real content is not the recording itself, it's the how the recordings relate to each other, because each one is not just showing you what that person is playing, but how that person is listening to all the other things that are happening. So you have this kind of 52 body problem of what the musical information is, and it's very complex, very rich, and every time you go through it you'll hear different things, and this is really really nice for us to be able to show.
So I experienced this needing to play it when it was nighttime and in dark. And the cameras, as you know, the Vision Pro aren't the best. I could definitely still see my room around me, but like, is the daytime experience kind of the preferred experience of experiencing these performances?
I mean, we are actually dimming we're using the dimming function for
Okay. Yep.
this experience anyway, because
Mm-hmm.
we want to have the contrast for the point clouds to
Sure.
be represented. And it's kind of also like if a concert starts, you know, the lights are dimming down on the stage and in the space. So it's kind of nice to have that. I mean, as long as you feel comfortable and are happy, you can do it wherever you like. You can go out in a park and or at home, or go onto a concert stage and experience it there. So it's very interesting to because we want to contextualize music also a little bit with this and play with environments, and that's also in the hands of the users in the end, like what's their preferred space where they're going to listen to it. And as we are also using the audio ray tracing engine, this will also have an impact on your experience, the actual size of the space around you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to do this outside one day and see the difference there.
And this question of where you're listening to it is really a big one, because you could be anywhere. You could be on the moon or in this sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But then on the other hand, you could be in a very real context. Like next week, we have a residency at Mozart's house in Salzburg. So people will be able to listen to us playing in really the context in which it was written, which means that there's a very active dialogue between what's coming as a pass through and then what's being rendered before your eyes. And I think this is going to yield some very, very interesting ways of thinking about music and other kinds of information. So I'm looking
Right.
forward to that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Vision Pro, when you're in these spaces, am I right that it doesn't like you walking around? Right. I didn't try walking around since it was nighttime, but you mentioned with the 52 person. Is that kind of an
Yeah.
idea where you're able to walk around the space because you can still see your space although it's dimmed, or what's the?
So yeah, so this is all to be walking around and exploring the sound field. So it's really about putting your head inside the instruments and listen to all the details. So because we're doing something very special with the distance modeling,
Mm-hmm.
and so it is behaving like that. That when you're stepping back, you get this nice sound of the recording, and the closer you go to the instrument, the more detail it will reveal, and you get the breath of the musicians and the bow going over the strings, and you hear this very, very clear. And it is supposed to be a walking experience.
Okay.
We had it in the past without pass through, and you have a concert hall around you.
Mm-hmm.
But the with the Vision Pro, that's currently not possible. As soon as you're in an immersive space, completely blindfold, let's say,
Yes.
I think your radius of action is 1.5 meters or 2 meters.
Yeah, you cannot walk if you're an immersive, but because you're not doing that, you're able to enable walking and being in
Yeah,
the whole space.
my very first concept and idea, which I'm still keen on wanting to realize, is that you are actually having, for instance, the quintet or the Mendelssohn playing around you, and you have the space, and then you're using the digital crown
Yeah.
on top, and then you're just pulling up a concert hall. And
Yeah.
then also the acoustics would change in real time to that concert hall.
That'd be cool.
And then you
Yeah.
could choose different concert halls and experience what the room does, because instruments themselves usually don't sound that nice. It's the connection of space and the instrument and the player, which is the creation of this beauty. So it would be very nice to play with this and to make a point about the importance of it. So we're trying to solve that. We're working on it, and yeah, there will be more to come.
Yeah, you could probably walk around, then dial in the crown to the immersion, then redial back so you could see everything, walk around some more, and enable it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I would like it to be a bit more, less distractive than doing that. That you have this kind of nice musical experience. But I'm sure this is just the beginning with this, and there will be ways to make it happen.
Yeah, because I think Apple's concern is you walk into a wall because you're in an immersive space and can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's other technology that solved it, and
For sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah, I know.
took away these features as well.
Yeah, I know in other VR platforms you put up like barriers and it'll
Yeah.
warn you, hey, you're about to hit a wall, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Apple doesn't want to do that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we if we're having these installations in spaces, then we are taking very well care of the people, and we it's just completely empty, and
Right. Yes.
like we had really, I think people up close to 100 years old walking through these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and we never had someone feeling super
Yes.
insecure or falling over. So
Yes.
and it's been a lot of people who've seen this already. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
I think that's also, sorry, excuse me, that's also an important part of the point clouds, because the point clouds are very stable in the XYZ environment you physically feel. And I think there's a lot of things about even the light distortions of 3D video that are a little anywhere between like disorienting and actually feel bad. And I think that The point clouds, the stability of the point clouds in your space is something that's ended up being very, very welcoming for people who are in the experience. They don't feel things moving around them in ways that are like physically disorienting, and that's
Mhm.
we've never had any trouble, for example, with the types of discomfort that people can sometimes feel in VR. And I think that's because of the lightness of the visual experience and the depth of the audio experience combined with it.
Yeah. Now it felt like in my session, maybe because the lighting was, I had the low light warning of Vision Pro. It felt like I was uh, over top of the performers a little bit. Like with good lighting, I'm supposed to be like on the same level as
Oh,
they are.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I was like looking
Absolutely.
over top them a little bit, which is kind of
Ah,
interesting. I kind of enjoyed it,
y-
but yeah, it was a little different. Yeah.
yeah, I mean they're sitting and they're supposed to be like 1-to-1 scale.
Yep.
Uh, they are 1-to-1 scale, and yeah, so they are supposed to be just like they're sitting next to you, and you can walk around it.
Gotcha. And with the duet performances, do you see any of those being standing performances as a
So
different?
the duet recording which we have, the Bartok, is actually a standing performance.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's a couple, and they're really, really excellent with each other, and the you can really feel the chemistry in that performance also, which is super lovely.
And that's super cool because if you're walking around with them standing, I feel that's going to be even better of a connection as you're like, you're standing with them versus, yeah.
It's always a choice. So if you're looking, because we always consider also younger listeners for these experiences, and if you then have like grown-ups standing and then you have a child wanting to listen to the
Yes.
instrument, they would need to jump up. So actually a sitting performance is better for everyone. So you could just bow down a little bit. Yeah, but it's I think it's going to be a great experience, and we're playing around with it and exploring all the details on what's possible and how it what it does to the listeners.
So you mentioned how the music changes kind of sound a bit depending on your room. And as someone that has done performances before, back when I was in college and all that, I remember going to the performance hall. You sound great in there. You gotta leave a little bit more time because like the a little bit of the echo, I want to say, or whatever, the reverberation in the room, it just makes everything sound a little different. And I'm curious, to capture these performances, are you doing anything to the capture, so you're trying to remove the room sound of where it was originally performed to then make it a more universal sound that can then be applied to these different rooms, so you're not having two different room sounds within a room. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is quite an extensive setup to record it, and we get kind of a print of the room, and we get the instruments quite closely, and this is how we can tweak things also. For instance, what I wish for the audio engine is that, because we're having this ray tracing which looks at the space, but I'm not having a lot of control over it. I actually would like to say, like, if you're having that space, please add always 20% to the size, so it's
Yes.
like to have it a little bit more airy and bigger sounding. It does a very good job in just making things natural and place it in the space. But as a creative tool, it would be nice to just being able to say, like, okay, ignore that and give it a bit more space, like at this kind of percentage towards this, and then we still have control by adding our own room to the recording,
Mm-hmm.
and tweak that. But I think we did a very good job to just make it sound very realistic and natural sounding. Yeah.
And then, am I right that there's no way to pause like performances as you're in it? That's something I noticed, and then I also wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how long the performance would be because I don't think there's actually like a runtime before you hit start. So I wasn't sure if that's something
Oh,
you had thoughts on with that
listen,
stuff.
we got to take note of that.
Yeah.
I think it's 7 minutes
Mm-hmm.
in total,
That
the
feels right.
quintet.
Yep. Cool.
and yeah, there is no playback controls as such right now. It's more the same as a concert going experience. You go in there and then you're not having any kind of interactivity. From the installations and the people that we showed it to, it was never a big request. I think from the only people who always gave the feedback for more interactivity were people from the industry, where they say like, oh, we need to like, you can solo things and you can have more interactivity. But it's a listening experience. It's very often a first touch experience for people in immersive media, and all they have to do is put on the headset and start to listen and walk around and explore the world with their ears and eyes. And that's really enough, because the music is the content, and it does the same for people when they just sit in a concert hall and you're listening to the music. And it's an emotional journey, and this is what we're wanting to do, and not put technology in between that, and just to make that peace, and give also the respect to the music somehow. Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even try if AirPods pause it, because the scenario I'm thinking of, I didn't, thankfully didn't have this, but like a family member comes into the room and you need to like pause and talk to them for a second before you can continue on. That'd be the scenario I'm thinking at home, where you have more interruptions sometimes.
Yeah, I guess it's more supposed to be something like a vinyl that you put on, and you're in the situation that you say like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna be doing this, and I'm in the space.
Yep.
To,
No, I totally get it.
to go in there, and not like, oh, there's someone coming in, and I need to pause.
Yeah. I think there's also an interesting distinction to be made between an interaction and a controller. I think this is like what we want to show is that when you're walking around in the experience, you are yourself sort of being a controller, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
That you're giving a very, very precise, sort of emotional led reaction to what's happening by shifting your glance, by shifting your ears, by doing all kinds of unconscious things and paying attention also to what we're doing. And what we want to do is to show people listening to each other so that you listen as they listen. So it's not just that you'll be able to get the music, but you'll be getting all kinds of interesting cues about how this thing is being made. And each time that's going to change how you listen to the piece. So that's a very dense kind of interaction, which we don't want a lot of controls getting in the way of.
Nice. Yeah, gotcha. Makes total sense. And yeah, you'd have people accidentally pausing and stuff when they don't mean to. And I'm not even sure where you'd put the controls as you're walking around. Like, where would those even live? I guess the app itself, I found the download super quick, and it like tells you, hey, it's 12 gigabytes, so just be ready for that, and kind of tells you the progress, and then it decompresses it when it's done, everything. And it was able to download in the background. I was watching a movie kind of in full immersion, and it was able to continue on in the background, which I say good job, because many apps just like, if it's not in the foreground, it doesn't like that. So yeah.
I don't have my camera on, but I'm very happy to hear that, because it was. I mean, there's so many things that can happen during a large download. It's good to hear that being taken care of. And I think we can shrink this download, but we really want to be careful with it, because we have something that communicates very well, and we don't want to shave off that. And I feel like there will be ways that we pare it down, we figure out which points we need and which points we don't. But for now, I think it's important that there's a lot of emotional and communicative information contained, and we're willing to go through the problems of a large download in order to maintain those, because those problems are solvable. But the emotional problems are they're easy to ruin, and we don't want to let them fly away.
Yeah. And it's also, if you look at things, the Melody VR, is it? No, but we have two bigger music apps, and also like one experience there is, I think, it's roughly about 24 gigabytes up to 32 or something.
No, they get pretty big in this space, which is
yeah. And so with the 12 gigabytes, we're kind of in a good space, but we're working on it to get it smaller, but also we're having uncompressed audio. So this is basically a real, let's say, audiophile product,
Yes.
and the quality is very important to us. And there will be some size to the data, but we will be constantly striving to make that as efficient as possible.
Mm. And how do you find the Apple Vision Pro's speaker pods compared to using AirPods Pro? I know the USB-C. I'm not sure if you've tested this. Lightning versus USB-C AirPods Pro. The USB-C ones would be lossless, is what we're told. I don't know if you can tell difference with the AirPods quality of headphone.
So I think with the headphones, it well better. That's really good.
Yeah.
So first, whoever designed these integrated speakers, well done.
Yeah. No,
I
they're
salute
good.
you. Um, so this is really the thing, because next time you try it, what I want you to do is to get up and put your head right inside the cello.
Okay.
It's a visceral experience. It's
Yeah.
really really good, and it's kind of the thing on the lower frequencies, which is very very well transported still. So I think till this level of frequencies, or low frequency, it's really working great. So for this setup, my preferred option is to actually have the integrated
The
speakers.
speaker pods. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, because you also get a phenomenal externalization of the instruments. It's really connecting with the space.
The room sound gets more in there, right?
Yes, yeah. And as soon as you introduce headphones, it's getting a little bit tighter to
Yeah.
the sound field,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously you will extend the frequency further down. But I think I have to say right now, for the quintet, that's my favorite option. If you're then looking at experiences with the Mendelssohn, where you have 4 double basses, then we are having different issues. But what we are trying to do then is, for instance, if it's a shared experience in a museum space,
Mm-hmm.
and you are having sync in between each headset and you're all listening the same thing, my preferred thing would be to use the integrated speakers plus a subwoofer in the room.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you have the best of both worlds. And I think that will be a very magical experience. This is what I did in the past, also with this is how we started working out with me and the Mahler Chamber Orchestra. We did a project with Gustavo Dudamel, Mahler Chamber Orchestra, and I did the sound. It was in Spain, and this is also a cinema which is based in Barcelona, and they also have a truck that's traveling around Europe and South America now. And everyone is also synced, and they have a subwoofer in space, and that's really, really adding a lot to the experience.
And is there a mode in this current app that does the sync, or is that something that's like a special app you've created for these exhibitions?
So the sync is not there yet for the Vision Pro. So right now it's a single user experience, but it will come. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the exhibitions currently are done with Quest 3 devices, right? And it
Yes.
even hooks up to a subwoofer. Is it connecting through like a Mac as well in this mix, or how's it?
So the symphony experience, where we have the subwoofer, it's quite old, and it was developed by an external studio in Spain. So it's basically, I think, a Unity server that's managing all the audio and the sync there.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Quest 3, the screens are quite good. Like, what do you feel you're missing? You mentioned the speakers in the Quest are not as good. Like, what are the kind of downfalls
Yeah,
of the
so
Quest platform?
they are not close in any way, and so you get towards the lower end, like the cello, quite easily some clipping or distortion, and the pass through is not as great as with the Vision Pro. So
Yes.
I hope hope we get something better there.
Yeah. And I imagine doing exhibitions with Apple Vision Pros would get expensive quickly.
Yeah, so I hope they see these kinds of models, and they have like an air exhibition model, you know.
Yes, for sure. Oh boy, yeah. And then you guys were also in Princeton for exhibitions as well.
Hmm.
And your exhibitions are with this performance that is in the app currently. Is that right?
So in Princeton we had a viewing on the Vision Pro, but it was more like a private space,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yep.
rest was covered with Quest 2s in that space, because we used a little feature called Sense. What is it? What is it, Tim?
Space Sense.
Space Sense, yes,
Yes.
and Meta now slashed that feature,
Mm.
and so it's for us a sad little goodbye to these shared virtual experiences. It's funny how you create something digital, and we've been talking about analog and digital, and analog, it's very hard to make things, but then they are there, and in digital you can establish something quicker, but then some things are getting taken away and it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
So our hopes are for the development environment in terms of Xcode are very high on Apple side, because we can see that also the Meta environment is getting worse and worse in terms of external developers, and how things are being taken away and broken, and you get kind of releases that are not doing great, and you always have to worry that your experience is still working with a new release of software.
And I do wonder if Apple will eventually. So there's SharePlay, right? I wonder, and there's
Yeah.
these spatial persona calls. I wonder
Hmm.
if they would enable like an app like yours to have a friend join you, and you're both walking around the room and able to see each other in the space. I don't know if that'll be possible in the future, because I know there's like limitations with those spatial persona calls.
I do hope so, because this is also teaching.
Yeah.
We could just set up something, and you could have a masterclass, and you come here, look at this, and
Mm-hmm.
listen closely what they are doing. Like, do you hear the interaction here? So there's a lot of sense. I mean, you can be together in a space, but also I think as a shared experience, it does make a lot of sense in terms of a way to analyze music, or teach, or just show something cool.
Yeah. Have you considered a way to have like the sheet music of the performance in the person's hand, like it, like they
Yes.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, and they can like follow along in that way in some way?
Yeah, so there is a concept floating around that you have the option of sheet music floating in front of you, and that a bar is going to show which notes are being played.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a very, I mean, um, saying I can't read sheet music. I mean, I know what it all means, but I can't
Yes.
do it in real time.
Yeah.
But that's usually the visualization is like, oh, where are they at? Like, if you're not having someone pointing it out, a bar is very helpful.
Uh huh.
So this is something we really want to consider, and because I think there's an audience who would certainly enjoy this kind of thing.
Yeah. Another.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, well, I think also we're one interesting way to start with that is we're going to do a recording of Bach musical offering, which is a lot of these little puzzle pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gives you a chance to sort of unpack the puzzle like Bugs Bunny on Mars, as the carrot and little band pops out. And we can show how these pieces are built and what they do, so we can have people playing them as people, but also show how they work as little mechanical devices. And I think that sort of thing will give us a clue to exactly how much we can show about music that will help people listen even closer.
Yeah, I was thinking with the sheet music, another kind of vertical this could go into is um people can practicing conducting in a way where you're able to see the sheet music and kind of like, yeah, I remember when I was needing to do conducting class or whatever, it was such precious time when you have live performers in front of you. Now I know these performers in the virtual would not be able to respond to you, but you'd at least have the sheet music and be able to make try to make eye contact and probably fail sometimes when they're looking elsewhere and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this gamified conductor app, which I guess is quite fun from what have seen. Yeah, but I think this is. I mean, it would give you the opportunity to do it, not interactively yet.
Right, but you'd be able to see your hands and all that and everything. Yeah.
You see a lot of people conducting in there anyway. So
Yes.
if they can do it, they will
Yeah.
do it.
Yes, you don't even need a
People
special
do.
mode for it. Yeah, especially if the sheet music was there, that would be even more so. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that the conducting idea, it comes up a lot, but it's not even clear to musicians what conducting is. I think that a lot of it is smoke and mirrors for for better and for worse, and the so the idea that you would conduct just to slow down or speed up the orchestra is actually maybe a little bit illusory. I think it's not going to take you down a path that has anything to do with conducting. So yeah, I think it would be secondary. However, the idea that people want to respond to it physically and move to it physically and which happens a lot for viewers is just us extremely interesting and good. Like that we're showing something really rich about people's gestures and how they create sound and music.
Yeah. And before you get into the performances, you have kind of a good amount of background about the piece, and the ones that aren't out yet aren't as detailed. Are those going to be expanded further as they're closer to release? Yeah.
Of course, yes. I think we have all of this data, but yeah, it was for us too important to get the quintet out because we've been planning to do that a lot, and I think the biggest delay was really data management and hosting data, and it was the missing piece in our skill because we never did that. We always managed headsets locally, and releasing an app comes with a few little quirks where you think like, oh, how is that actually working? And it's like, oh, that's quite expensive. And so we had to figure out a few things there, but I think we're happy right now, and it will be filled with more data and more amazing experiences. Yes.
Yeah, I would even say so we've chosen the pieces really carefully. I mean, because we're working in this classical area, we're actually working with stuff that has centuries of experience behind it, and is giving a lot of it's survived a lot of shifts in media already. And so there are things in there which we can newly expose. But we've chosen the pieces really with particular goals in mind. Mozart in particular is very much about voice and the presence of instruments. Mendelssohn is derived directly from Shakespeare and these ideas of what theater is. So it's really nice for virtuality. And we're also going to do a piece of Wagner, which has this Gesamtkunstwerk, is the total arts work behind it. And this is very closely tied to immersion. I'm sorry, I'm actually at the art school right now and it's getting busy with artists. So maybe I'll have to cut that off for now. You can probably hear them behind me. Yeah.
Yeah. So currently it's strings, but these other performances will introduce different kinds of instruments. Is that accurate?
Well, Mendelssohn is an entire orchestra.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah,
it's an entire orchestra. Wagner, 13 different instruments. Bach would be an
brass
assortment
included
of
in that?
instruments. Brass included for sure.
Yep.
We have plans to do with voice as well, with choir. Brahms would be probably a horn trio, which is horn piano. We've recorded also with piano. Gosh, and Charles Ives also has 4 flutes and strings and a trumpet.
Because I'm looking forward to, as you mentioned, sticking your head in the cello. I want to stick my head on top of a tuba.
Yeah.
You can do that in the wedding march. It is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're able to click into or tap into like a manuscript, and it's currently single pages for all the performances. Is that a limitation of the platform, or do you hope to show more pages in the? Yeah.
No, we really can, and I really with the Mozart in particular, I think hopefully speaking with them, we can figure out ways that digitalization and these 3D renderings can bring people very, very close to this creative moment. And actually, I think it'll bring people a lot to have these manuscripts before them.
Yeah, so actually we've been visiting the a special library at Princeton University when we had our showings there, and we were able to see a few of the original manuscripts from Mozart and other great composers, and they have actually a scanner which scans volumetrically. So it would be, although it is a flat surface, but there's still some depth to it. And one of the concepts that we've been looking at is to display these pages scanned volumetrically with a lot of detail. So you get like as close to the original page as possible.
Also, the instruments. I mean, we have a couple
Yeah.
strads recorded already, and there's just these fantastic old and new instrument which deserve a closer look and a closer listen. So you'll be able to look at them as a craft item very closely, but then also to hear what they do from very, very close, and get a strong impression of what that means.
For the non-musicians in this podcast, a Strad is a Stradivari violin.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And so you're Tim, you're part of the Mahler Chamber Orchestra.
yeah.
That I'm sure made capturing as well as getting them on board much easier. And I'm not sure. I'm a part of the test slate. Is there a monetization strategy at this point yet for a compensation of musicians and all that?
Well, this recording actually was funded by the German government, but it was a digitalization initiative. But
Mm-hmm.
we imagine that between exhibitions and this, we can make a sort of a pincer movement on what it will become. The exhibitions, you
Mm.
can sell tickets and people will enjoy them, and they can be. We travel all over the place, and if we can bring them to our concerts, I think we can create an audience for us, but
Mm-hmm.
also create an audience for what this medium can show. So I figure we'll have some time where it's really about building exhibitions and making sure that we and audiences understand what it has to offer for listening to music, which is an enormous amount. And then this will lead us toward what's valuable in the medium as it shifts and finds its
Yeah.
core.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that, for instance, with the app release, we do not have a lot of expectations to make a lot of money with it
Mm-hmm.
because the market right now is not very big. But we hope to get some support. And I think these digital installations in spaces like museums we hope that there might be some revenue in it, and the orchestra and we are very very committed to this technology and to bring it further forward. And anyone who will buy this experience is going to be supporting musicians and the development of this and further recordings, because it's kind of all being going reinvested into these experiences. Yeah.
In the app you did, yep. I was gonna just about in the app you download. Is
Yep.
it a free download for the performance currently, or?
There's not a free download right now. We're looking into making a little piece that we can we maybe have also a little part of a piece that you can test for free.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because the test flight I think it's unlocked, so I wasn't sure what the cost is
Yeah.
for the performance I experienced. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the current cost is $7.99. Is that right?
$7.99 USD, yeah.
Okay,
And
very reasonable. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And but I think also regarding music and the long-term strategy, I think that if thinking about the medium as a whole, I think there are some things to like and some things not to like about the idea of immersion and virtual reality and the extent to which one is blocked off from the rest of the world. But I think that if there is a real social meaning for this medium, music is going to be important in helping figure out what it is, because it's going to slip through the cracks of all these dimensional shifts and all these big O problems that you get when you suddenly have three dimensions instead of two to represent. That music is something where all the dimensions are packed into a wave, and it's going to be able to find how much meaning you need in all these visual dimensions and show you things about space that are really, really interesting and full of communicative value. We feel like we do have that. Like we know where that is, and we know where it points because there are, again, hundreds of years of music that have been written for many voices because it's so great to have people interact through music through space. And space has always been the medium. It's like what's between us when we're in a room. So we're just using that element, which is showing that element, which has always been used and which is full of the bridge between people. And I think that's the thing that is most excellent about it, is that music is ready to use that space. It always has been.
Yeah. And I was just thinking with the larger performances, the 52 member orchestra, for instance, I'm not sure my bedroom would fit that many people. What happens when you're trying to perform a piece in a room that's smaller than the capture is?
Yeah, so this is really the issue, and for now we always step back from any kind of teleportation or something mechanics that how you can move through space, because we always set things up in a way that people can walk through it and really earn this. And I think it's like traveling through time and space and sound is something very special, and we really want people to move through it. Yeah, we just need to see what we could do, but this is why we are still looking at these larger footprint experiences, maybe only for digital installations, but not for home use, or at least give a little
like a
heads up
large
that
space required.
you
You
will need a large
Yeah.
space for this. Yes.
Yeah, you will need a large space, but I would say also that's what's interesting is that we've been able to port it to iOS as well. Like it works. You can have a small orchestra, say, a 25% size orchestra, and you'll get the same as spatial effects as you sort of merge your phone around. This is a possibility. We haven't released it, and I think there's still some things shifting in the background of iOS and how it treats AR spaces. So, but it does work, and it works quite beautifully. And I figure this also is something where we're looking like we don't want just to build something for Vision Pro or even for immersive devices. We want to figure out some way to show how space is useful in music. And the Vision Pro does it really beautifully, but there are other elements which you can separate. You can build a toy for children about exploring the orchestra and give them a really, really nice view of what it feels like inside just from the iPad. So
Yeah.
this is also something that works for us. And I think it's these bridges that we're now building. It feels like the medium is not ripe, but there's something, especially something musical in there that we're finding through building for Quest and building for Vision Pro and then building for iOS. And we're finding, well, it's all there. And slowly we're going to build the house that they live in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that playing with the scale that you have, like this miniature orchestra playing on your table, it's super nice. Could be a very good tool for school education to teach children about the sound of specific instruments, and they can go closer to it. But also saying that if you rendered a full orchestra and you started, I mean, what you would need to do is you walk to the room next door, and it would still be full with musicians.
Yes.
So I've been actually walking a lot through my flat with a lot of filled with musicians, and then you see like, okay, the trombone is down there, so I need to further go out and then go back to it. It's quite funny.
Yeah. Well, anything we haven't covered they'd like to before we start to wrap it up?
Good question. What haven't we covered?
Is it right to assume classical is the focus, and like moving to jazz or other genres is not something? Yeah.
It's so that, yeah, I mean, talking about genres is quite a thing, and recording classical music in the audio space is kind of, for me, the hardest thing to do. If you figure this out, you have been solving quite a lot of other projects, so or problems. I'm really wanting to do things like, for instance, I don't know if you know the musician Niels Fram, who's working a lot with acoustic instruments, but also with synthesizers and acousmatic music. So it's going to be interesting how to place instruments that are acoustic in space, where they have a logical space there, but with music that is speaker based. On how we can play with this and what kind of spaces we can build is I think very, very interesting, and I would love to explore that.
Yeah, Jerry Goldsmith was my favorite composer growing up as a kid, and he did a lot with synthesizers, performing live with musicians for film music.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of old Xenakis spatial compositions which could be explored. And it's not only classical music. We really want to expand, and specifically going into our own platform or doing white label apps. There is, I hope, a lot of exciting projects ahead of us with that in mind.
Yeah, I would say, just to add to that, also one of the interesting things about this music in this medium, acoustic music in this medium, is that it just gives you an idea of how people touch musical objects. And I think doing different cultures, acoustic music would also be a nice way to branch out, because it'll show you a lot about how people are communicating through space in these other traditions. And we've had interesting discussions that, particularly with people in Korea, but it also looks like a very interesting possibility, just to figure out what the other instruments and sound makers are that people use to make things. Music.
I think I mentioned this on another podcast, but a drum circle would be a lot of fun in this space.
Absolutely.
Oh yes, yeah. I think the whole American minimalism is also very interesting, because it's like there's so much happening spatially that you're not getting in the audience. And I hope we can uncover a lot of nice little musical details with our experiences.
For sure.
Experiences.
Yeah. Well, where should people go to learn more? There's a website, there's an app to download. What do you want to promote here?
So yeah, we have a website which you can visit is reflekt-music.com. Reflekt is spelled with a K, because it's kind of we're German based, and it's like a little pointer to that. The Mahler Chamber Orchestra is having a lot of information about the immersive projects on their website. There's also Schallgeber, my company, which is doing normal, regular, immersive sound still. And Tim, anything to add to that?
No, of course you can check out the thing at the Mozart Woche next week, and our Mozart House, and yes, then of course download the application and enjoy it.
And as far as the museum experiences, the exhibitions, do you plan to have like a schedule listed anywhere for people that want to like follow along? And if it's like, oh, you're gonna be nearby, you could like
So the Mahler Chamber Orchestra, it's in the touring schedule.
It's in the touring.
Actually.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, there's one actually next week. This is kind of an interesting thing, maybe an interesting way to end at the Leuphana University in Lüneburg. There's a very nice museum there, and we're doing works of Bach. And this is based around a project which is about the history of algorithm and Bach and Leibniz. And there's a really interesting set of activities that happened, including Leibniz inventing computer and binary logic and all this stuff that happened in a very small geographic location. And so we're studying that there and presenting it there in this context. And I think it could be very, very interesting on a lot of levels.
Nice. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Henrik and Tim, for your time today recording. This is fascinating, and I want to revisit that performance now in daylight and walk around and check it out again.
Yeah. Okay,
yes,
great.
Please. Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation also and having us.
Thank you.
Well, that's my discussion with Tim and Henrik, all about Reflekt music and the Mahler Chamber Orchestra. Download the app today to kind of hear and experience what we talked about today. But thanks to them for their time recording. Thanks to you for your time and attention tuning in. As a reminder, you can support this podcast over at visionpros.fm/Patreon. My great thanks to everyone that supports the show. With that, I'll talk with everyone again real soon.